What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today I wanted to break down a handful of key Battlefield gameplay mechanics that you really need to know about if you're planning on getting invested into Battlefield. This is somewhat similar, and there will be some crossover here from a video I made a few days ago, sharing some essential tips, but those are more so just like how to approach the gameplay, whereas this is more so explaining how certain mechanics work, because I have seen a lot of confusion surrounding some of these areas, rightfully so if you're not really familiar with Battlefield mechanics. So let's dive right into this with one of the most important mechanics that you need to know, especially for longer range combat, and this is bloom or spread, whatever you want to call it in Battlefield. Essentially, as you're firing your gun, even when aiming down sight, your bullets don't necessarily go exactly where you're aiming, especially as you continue to fire. So if you hold the trigger down for a long period of time, the spread grows and grows with every shot that you fire, to the point where it's almost like you're hip firing while then aim down sight. These shots are going nowhere near my point of aim. And obviously, if you're unfamiliar with this and didn't know this exists, that would be very frustrating to experience. And I've seen a lot of people posting frustration about horrible hit detection at longer ranges because they're controlling the recoil really well and keeping that reticle right where it needs to be on target, but they're consistently missing their targets. When in reality, it was just them not understanding that this mechanic exists. Now, some tips regarding this spread. Like I said, it gets worse as you continue to fire, and therefore tap firing or firing in very short bursts is a great way to counteract this, because even just pausing for a short period of time will help reset that bloom back to the lower value so you'll get more accurate shots. But on top of this, a big key with this spread is not only does it increase as you continue to fire, it also increases drastically if you're moving your feet. And I know many players from other franchises have been conditioned to strafe in gunfights to try to be evasive, and also for controller players to use some left stick aiming so you can make those fine adjustments with your aim by strafing left and right. While it's okay to do that a little bit, you definitely want to limit how much you're strafing side to side in a gunfight. Again, if it's at mid to long ranges, up close, this amount of spread is generally not going to be enough to throw you way off target or anything. But if you're really stretching those ranges out, you definitely want to limit the amount you're moving while aiming down sight and firing. Additionally, the spread values will decrease as you change your stances, so standing up will give you the worst bloom, crouching will slightly improve your bloom so it will be a little bit more accurate, and going prone will decrease it the most. But it is worth noting, in all of these stances, you're still going to run into some bloom. It's not like it eliminates it entirely, it just reduces it as you lower your stance. So there we go, that's the first one and probably the most important one to know, especially if you're trying to stretch your ranges out at all. Next up, let's talk about reviving a little bit, especially as a support player using the Defibrillator, which is an excellent playstyle by the way, and I highly encourage, especially new players, to try out that medic playstyle and just revive a lot of people. You'll get tons of XP by doing this, and you'll be helping your team out so much. But the big tip with this one that isn't immediately obvious, if you just tap the button to defibrillate, you will revive your teammates, but they'll come up with half health. Whereas if you take just a little bit of time to hold that button down first, that'll allow you to charge up the paddles, and then when you revive them, when you release that button to revive them, they will come up at full health rather than half health. So make sure you're doing that whenever viable. Sometimes you really just need to do a quick tap to revive, but more often than not, you want to make sure you're charging to revive. And on a similar note there, if you're the one that is downed, a big mistake I'm seeing a lot of beginner players make is automatically just hitting that skip button and forcing your character to bleed out so you can just respawn as fast as possible. The big problem with this is Battlefield uses a ticket system for most of its game modes, and these tickets are respawn tickets that you will spend and deplete every time you have to respawn. So if you bleed out and you don't get revived, then your team is going to lose a ticket once you hit the redeploy button. Whereas if a teammate manages to revive you, it doesn't deplete a ticket. And therefore, effectively speaking, when we're looking at the score of the match, the enemies don't score a point against your team when you get revived. And so it's very important that you don't just immediately automatically skip every single time. And every time you do get down, you want to assess the situation, see how many nearby medics you have. It actually shows you all of the players that are capable of reviving you. So non-squad mate support players or medics, or squad mates that can be any class, they can revive you as well, and it will show you how far away they are to you. Obviously, if there are no players that are capable of reviving you in the vicinity, then at that point, feel free to skip it. There's no point in you laying on the ground if there's nobody there to even come get you. Similarly, when you're assessing the situation, you do want to assess the level of risk it would take to revive you. If you're right out in the open, there are a bunch of enemies that you can see looking at you, and it's just really unlikely that a teammate would be able to revive you without just running out and also getting themselves killed, then at that point as well, you do want to skip the revive. Otherwise, you're just risking your team losing 2 tickets by not only you dying, but also the guy that's trying to revive you. However, another little quick tip there, you can ping enemy players while in a down state, and that can be really helpful to your teammates. So just a handful of tips there when it comes to being down and revived. It's a really important thing that a lot of new players totally neglect, and it can have a big negative impact on your team's performance if you consistently mishandle these situations. Now, as for the next Battlefield mechanic I want to talk about here, this is suppression. And with suppression in Battlefield 6, at least in the beta, you will suppress enemies just by shooting near them. So you don't have to hit them or anything, you just have to have shots that are like going over their head or going really close to them, and you will get XP for doing this. And the effect that it has on them in the Battlefield 6 beta, it does vary from Battlefield game to Battlefield game, but in the Battlefield 6 beta, if you're suppressing enemy players, it will delay their ability to automatically regenerate health. So if you've injured somebody and they're hiding behind a wall and you've got plenty of ammo to spare, you can suppress them by firing shots over that wall. It will slow down their health regeneration, and then you or your teammates can make a push and kill them when they're at low health. Now, to be clear, this only affects their automatic health regeneration. It won't affect how the support or health packs will heal them. It's just that automatic health regeneration. Next, let's talk about sniping a little bit. And one key mechanic with sniping a Battlefield is you can change your zero on the fly. And this means you're adjusting the point at which the bullet will impact directly on your point of aim depending on the range. So it factors in the bullet drop for a particular range. So by default, for instance, with the sniper rifle we have in the beta with the default scope that's on it, this will be zeroed at 100 meters, meaning at exactly 100 meters, that bullet will land directly on your point of aim. But at 150 meters or 200 meters, for instance, you're gonna have to aim a little bit high and drop the bullet into your target if you're zeroed at 100 meters. Or you can change the zero on your scope, and on controller at least, the way to do this is aim down sight and then press down on the D-pad. And on the bottom right of the screen while sniping, it will show you what your zero distance is. And as you can see, you can adjust your zero for different ranges. So if somebody's at 500 meters away and you don't want to be guessing and aiming like way above their head and trying to drop that bullet in, you can just change your zero on the fly, point directly on their head, and pull the trigger. Obviously, there will still be bullet travel time that you have to account for, but you won't have to worry about the drop at that range. Now, you might be wondering, why don't you just set this to the highest zero possible and then just always point directly at their head? At that point, if you set this at 500, for instance, and then you try to shoot somebody in the head at 50 meters, you're likely going to end up shooting above their head because you're zeroed for a significantly longer distance. So it is something you want to manage at least to a degree. I don't think you really need to micromanage this too much. Like, it's not like for every single gunfight you take, you want to be adjusting your zero. It's just something you want to be aware of, and if you decide in a situation, I'm going to try to take this really long-range cross-map shot, then you might want to adjust your zero before doing that. After that, one element that may seem obvious to some people because this applies to many video games, not just Battlefield. This is, with most game modes at least, if there's an objective point to capture, the more teammates you have on that point, the faster you will capture it. And therefore, just getting your body on that point alongside your teammates is going to be very helpful, and that can be counteracted by enemies entering the point as well. So for every enemy on the point, it will effectively cancel out a teammate that's on the point as far as how quickly you're capturing things. And if you've got an equal number of teammates and enemies on there, you're not actually going to be progressing that cap at all. And in order to see this, once you're on an objective, it will tell you exactly how many teammates and how many enemies are on the point, which is extremely useful information if you are capturing. You can see exactly how many enemies are there, and therefore you can obviously be on higher alert, or you know that you have to go hunt some of them down, for instance. Again, this might seem super obvious to many, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that just didn't pick up on this. And then one final Battlefield 6 specific tip that I've got here that I'm a little embarrassed to admit that I totally neglected for my entire first play session of this game. You have active class upgrades, and you do have to manually activate them, so pay attention to the bottom right of your screen. Once you charge these up, they're kind of like a field upgrade in Call of Duty, for instance, and each class has a different one that will have different effects. Like with Recon, for instance, when you activate it, it calls in a UAV that will circle around above your head. It will also follow you, and it will reveal any enemies in a 30-meter radius to you as it sweeps across them. So that can be really useful. Keeping in mind, those can also be shot down, but that's just one example of these. You can go through the field specs and look at each of the classes to see exactly what the active combat ability is. That is going to wrap it up for today's video on just a handful of really important mechanics that I've seen many people either confused about or just totally unfamiliar with. And I wanted to make sure I was highlighting those today. And this is where I want to hear from you guys in those comments down below. First off, did you guys learn something new today? Was this helpful for you? And second, for you guys that do play Battlefield, what other Battlefield-specific mechanics would you recommend getting familiar with as well that I didn't include on this list? If you enjoyed this video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.